Four Anglos of the Apocalypse are going to sing us out of the day and of the conference. They comprise Terry Mosher, the infamous Aislin cartoonist for the Montreal Gazette, Josh Freed, humorist, journalist, I think also for the Montreal Gazette, and Bowser and Blue, purveyors of musical comedy since forever. All of them have at various times and individually been on this stage, but this is the first time they come as a powerful quartet. Gentlemen, if you would.
Anglophones arise, lift up your downcast eyes. We're going to create a brand new dawn. Come on, you guys. Anglophones are we who finally agree. Now is the hour to feel the power of our apostrophe.
Montreal has suffered years and years of drama. First the PQ screwed it up, then Toronto cleaned it out.
If you believe they'll soften their laws on our language, then maybe you believe one day they'll finish the Champlain Bridge. Anglophones survive. The way to stay alive is try to show a francophone where Pure Lane meets sex drive. Anglophones arise, lift up your downcast eyes. There's fields to cross and hills to climb. Let the bells of freedom chime. What the hell, it's cliche time. Anglophones arise.
Good evening, everyone. We are all Anglophones, and this is our people's history, the Book of Anglophones, otherwise known as the Anglophone Book. Now, the truth is, very little is known about us Quebec Anglos in the rest of the world. We are a mystery even to ourselves. What is an Anglo? How do we become the only community in the Western world where English is an endangered language? And why doesn't the rest of the planet know we exist? Are we a lost English tribe? We recently did a play in Montreal on this very subject, and we're just doing an excerpt here today. So we thought we'd come here and share it with you, because it's time to tell our people's history and let the world know just who we Anglos are. So we're going to start by looking at me, because I'm a fairly typical Montreal Anglo. I'm Jewish. Like most Montreal Jews, I went to an English Protestant school because French Catholic schools didn't want me. So I see myself as a kind of Jewish Protestant. Now that's because I spent every morning of my childhood learning all these Christian songs that only Jews in Montreal can sing. You know, Jesus loves me, yes I know, for the Bible tells me so. Oh come, all ye faithful, joyful. I could lead you all in choruses for hours. The truth is, I can walk into any synagogue full of Montreal Jews and lead them all in a rousing chorus of Onward Christian Soldiers. And they all know all the words, including the rabbi. Now, unfortunately, while I was learning all these Protestant tunes, I didn't really learn that much French because English schools didn't really feel that was an important language to speak in Quebec when I was a kid. Honest, I had a French teacher, Mrs. Schwartz, but that's another matter. Anyway, I grew up on a Montreal street called Jean Talon. And I was 15 before I found that it was actually called Jean Talon. I found this out when I was taking my first cab home alone, and the French driver couldn't find my street, even though he kept driving right by the sign. That's because he was from this remote French part of town called East End, Montreal. This was a mysterious half of the city, absolutely unknown to us Anglos, so unknown that our English high school maps just had pictures of ships and sea dragons. and life there was very different.
You English, you look so tense. You should learn to speak French sitting here in my cafe. You always look so uptight, but I'm going to show you tonight what it means. Hip hip, beret. Your English mouth is going down as if you were a constant frown, and when you speak, it always comes out clipped. But your face will be unclenched when you start speaking French, and you finally can't move your lips. You should speak French, and your face will look like this. When you speak French, you can't help it, you make a kiss. Oof. You see, French has always been the language of haute cuisine. We sauté, but you English turn. A bowl of food is not a stew, it's a bouillabaisse or a ragout, and we flambe, but you English burn. We soufflé, you are puffed, we étouffé, and you get stuffed. For food, the English language fails. Escargot, you must agree, is a fine delicacy. But who would ever order snails? You should speak French. You will have the pâté de foie gras. If you speak French, you might even have a fromage à trois.
We English are cold fishes. To us, foreplay is washing dishes. We're so full of shame and guilt. When an Englishman makes love, it's because they closed the pub. We can't help it. It's the way we're built. So teach me how to live, how to know joie de vivre. Maybe even wear buffalo jeans. Teach me how to dress with elan and finesse, and teach me what ooh la la means. I want to speak French.
Français, I will ask encore une fois. Say something in French. You can do it. Come on.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
Ne touchez pas ma baguette.
In my late teens, I moved to downtown Montreal, where I finally started to understand how this big French-speaking city worked. For instance, instead of ordering lunch by saying, "Donnez-moi deux chiens chauds tout garnis, s'il vous plaît," like I learned in high school, I learned to say it the way Quebec francophones did. "Donne-moi deux dogs all dress." But there are lots of other lessons, too, when you live in Quebec. Like many Quebec Anglos, I had to adjust to political change, especially in 1976 when the Parti Québécois came to power, and suddenly René Lévesque was Quebec's first separatist premier. And Terry Mosher here gave the whole province some really very legendary advice.
It was a rich historical period back when I first started cartooning in Montreal. René Lévesque was about to become Premier of Quebec, and his nemesis, Pierre Trudeau, was the Prime Minister of Canada. Now, the interaction between those two alone would provide me with more than enough material. The morning after the 1980 referendum, for example, this next caricature appeared on the front page of the following morning's Gazette. But there was something else going on in the Montreal of that day that proved eminently cartoonable. A growing Anglo-paranoia along with a grand exodus to Toronto. Now, I thought of René Lévesque as kind of my raison d'être as a political cartoonist. However, by 1984, Lévesque was gone and the Quebec story appeared to be over. We even had a Montreal Anglo Prime Minister, Brian Mulroney, who took great pride in showing off his chin. In Brian's first year, he could do no wrong. He was like he was walking on water. This gigantic love-in was going on. And I thought I might have to look for a different kind of work. But then that mouth of his got busy and the bragging and the blarney began, and I was back in business. In fact, Mulroney proved to be my best target yet, but with even better to come. Wonderful characters like Jacques Parizeau, the thing that just wouldn't go away.
By Jove.
And then there was the very intense Lucien Bouchard.
S'il vous plaît. S'il vous plaît.
Bouchard's arch enemy was, of course, Jean Chrétien.
Allô?
But then Chrétien was replaced by another Quebecer, Paul Martin, who promised everything to everybody. But none of us believed a word of it. Martin, he just couldn't get past the sins of the previous Chrétien regime. So Paul Martin paid the price at the polls, being replaced by the only person in the world, sorry, Jack, today who actually still admires George W. Bush. In fact, Stephen Harper's a regular Mr. America, isn't he? Harper's other best friend these days is Jean Charest. Now, there are those who say being Premier of Quebec is the toughest job in Canada, particularly for those Parti Québécois leaders who were martyred by their own. Notice that there are 6 sets of holes in this particular cross. They certainly do come and go within the Parti Québécois, supplying us with an array of caricaturable individuals, including my all-time favorite, Madame Louise Baudouin. In 1996, Baudouin was appointed the Quebec minister responsible for making French dominant and in the process practically eliminating English. So I got the idea of drawing her as a dominatrix. And every time I drew her in this way, I received dozens of faxes and emails and phone calls, all asking one thing: please do it again. And so I did, including her in all kinds of conceivable situations when anything came, even as the Grinch at Christmas. Now, I miss Louise now that she's out of the political game, but it turns out that she misses us too. Recently, through a colleague at the National Film Board, I received this signed memento from Madame Baudouin. On one of my cartoons, she has written, Aislin, je regrette votre absence dans ma vie. Signed, Louise Baudouin.
Louise, Louise, I'm down on my knees. I've been bad and now I'm confessing.
Confess!
I'm loose and immoral. I failed my French oral. Oh, please, won't you teach me a lesson? Terry has a secret.
Not anymore.
She came through my French windows dressed as a French maid with French wine, French bread, and a kiss. We locked her French poodle outside and I said, Louise, it just doesn't get any Frencher than this. Though she was exciting and très charmante, in some ways her behavior was strange. She insisted on hanging a sign on the doorknob that said, please do not derange. Naughty man, she said, you have broken la loi, so now you are under arrest. You must come quietly, she told me, and so I did, all over her dress. Louise, Louise, I'm down on my knees. At this game I am somewhat newish. Louise, Louise, do whatever you please. Beat me, whip me, tell me I'm Jewish. French must be protected from English, she told me as I was admiring her figure. And I saw that she did have some cause for complaint, for I was at least 1/3 bigger. She took out a tape measure and she gave me a look, and I must say it gave me a scare, till I saw that she only intended to measure the size of my dictionary. Louise, Louise, I'm begging you, please, let's get married without delay. And then we'll have children, and they'll be allowed to go to school en anglais.
Now, surviving as an Anglo isn't just about learning French, it's about learning to live like the French. Because many things in Quebec are distinct. I mean, take Montreal's traffic, symbolic of our city's live and let die spirit. In other Canadian cities, you can turn right on reds, but in Montreal, you can turn right on reds or left on reds or just go straight through a red. Stop signs are optional, and bus lanes are reserved for policemen chasing motorcycle gangs or illegal English apostrophes. Then there are our city's pedestrian crossings, which are really just there to highlight your target when you're driving. You put out your hand at a crosswalk in Toronto when traffic stops all the way to the Quebec border. You put out your hand at a crosswalk in Montreal, you lose it.
Red light, green light, what the heck? We love driving in Quebec. From Chicout to me to Maine, it's beep, beep, get out of my lane. Beep, beep, get out of my lane. This is the only place I've ever seen where they have to put up a sign that says, wait for the green. And no matter how late you cross on yellow, up your rear end is some other fellow. Pedestrians have only one light. It doesn't say walk, it says run for your life. How far is it across Boulevard Levesque? No one knows. No one's ever made it yet. Red light, green light, what the heck? We love driving in Quebec. From Chicout to me to Maine, it's beep, beep, get out of my lane. Beep, beep, get out of my lane.
Now, adding to our motoring confusion is Quebec's roads department, whose highway signs are conveniently posted in French and in French. If you're English, it's best to drive slowly and carry a big French-English dictionary in your glove compartment, so you can decipher all French signs, like the ones that say risque de brouillard. Now, that means risk of fog if you speak French, but what if you don't? Personally, I've always felt the roads department should at least give us Anglos some warning with a sign that said, attention, very difficult French sign coming up in 2 kilometers. Préparez vos dictionnaires.
Sex is very important to Montrealers, particularly in winter when we're all so cold. Here in this next cartoon, I've asked, how do Montreal women talk dirty? Oh my God, yes. You have heated seats. We all survive February, a time of year when our cars won't start, only to have to deal with March, a gray, gray month when we've all had enough tabarouette. The only solution to a Quebec winter is to sleep through until April. That's when we wake up and start paying attention to hockey, whether we're winning, whether we're losing, or perhaps more typically these days, when the Habs actually make the playoffs. A love of the Habs is probably the only thing that unites all Montrealers. On all other matters, we have our differences, which is reflected in our notorious street life. What other North American city holds its annual Scottish Games on the same day as its gay pride parade? Now, tourists know Montreal for its excellent, if expensive, restaurants. Real Montrealers, however, take great pride in eating out regularly for under $10. There isn't a steamed hot dog place in town that isn't on a first-name basis with our friend Josh Freed here. We're also famous for our barbecue sauce. Well, the sauce, anyway. As for smoked meat, this is downtown Dick Pound who knows where to get all the best stuff. And aren't we all sending huge care packages off to Toronto of Saint Viateur bagels? But unquestionably, our greatest fast food export of all is poutine.
No one knows the precise origin, where or when this food did begin. Everybody in Quebec will tell you with a grin, it was their little village that invented the poutine.
To be really authentic, the potatoes must be old, the gravy must be hot, and the cheese must be cold. With a Journal de Montreal, wherever it is sold, served with a roll in a bowl by a troll.
You put some potatoes and some cheese in a tin, but the cheese won't melt till you put the gravy in. Then it sticks to your fork and it dribbles down your chin, and that's how you know that you're eating a poutine.
If the French fries are greasy and the gravy's nice and hot, the cheese curds melt as they come out of the in your stomach. It congeals into a knot. If your food does that, poutine is what you got.
Some use mozzarella, but that isn't really it. And they serve it at McDonald's, but the French fries are shit. And I hate to be picky, but I have to admit, it's hard to eat when the cook has a zit.
Well, no one would ever call it haute cuisine. It isn't really junk food, it's something in between. But it's better than a burger or a Mike submarine. A balanced diet is a beer and a poutine.
Hey!